Saturday Night Fever. The name alone instantly brings to mind the flashing lights of a disco ball, the legendary white suit, and the immortal hits of the Bee Gees. It's the Bible of the 70s, the film that defined the culture of an entire generation of American youth. But what if I told you that this entire cultural empire was built on a spectacular lie? What if I told you that the most passionate dance moves were executed while the leading man was emotionally shattering from a tragic death right in the middle of filming? Behind the dazzling glamour of Saturday Night Fever lie brazen deceptions, real tears, and absurd accidents that inadvertently made history. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on the 20 darkest and most bizarre facts that have been buried for decades about Saturday Night Fever. Number 1. The origins of the lie of the century. To understand the magnitude of this scam, we have to travel back to 1976. New York Magazine published a bombshell investigative article titled, "Tribal Rights of the New Saturday Night." The author was Nick Cohn, a newly immigrated British journalist. The piece provided a gritty, sweat-soaked, and vivid detailing of a Brooklyn underworld where poor, working-class youth slaved away at menial day jobs, only to transform into disco gods when the sun went down. The central figure was Vincent, a street dancer with extraordinary talent and a wild lifestyle. The article was a massive hit. Hollywood directors and producers went crazy for it. They instantly bought the rights to adapt it into Saturday Night Fever, completely believing they were capturing an authentic slice of American society. John Travolta's character, Tony Manero, was molded 100% on this mysterious Vincent. However, there was an earth-shattering truth buried for 20 years. It wasn't until 1996 that Nick Cohn casually confessed. The article was entirely a figment of his imagination. When assigned to cover Brooklyn culture, Cohn had just arrived in the US. He knew no one, didn't understand the slang, and was honestly terrified of the tough street kids in the area. Instead of doing groundwork, the lazy journalist locked himself in his room. He recalled a jobless mod youth he knew back in 1960s London, copy-pasted the British guy's mannerisms, slapped an Italian name like Vincent on him, dropped him into a Brooklyn setting, and fabricated the entire story. A clumsy lie from a lazy writer accidentally birthed the greatest cinematic icon of American pop culture. Number 2. Dancing in the silence. When you think of Saturday Night Fever, the first sound that pops into your head is the driving beat of "Stayin' Alive" by the Bee Gees. The image of John Travolta strutting down the New York sidewalks syncs perfectly with every bass line, as if the universe created them for each other. But the reality on set was a technical nightmare that shatters every romantic illusion. When director John Badham yelled, "Action!" for the most iconic dance scenes, the Bee Gees didn't even know this movie existed. They had zero involvement in pre-production. At the time, the band was hiding out in a rural French studio, Château d'Hérouville, recording a completely different album. So the big question is, throughout filming, what the hell were John Travolta and dozens of professional dancers grooving to? The answer: they had to dance to pure silence, or awkwardly keep rhythm to Stevie Wonder and Boz Scaggs' track, "Lowdown." Travolta poured his heart into choreographing his steps to the beat of Boz Scaggs. Only after the visual filming wrapped did producer Robert Stigwood call the Bee Gees, demanding a few songs in less than a week. The Bee Gees dusted off some unfinished demos and shipped them to the US. Post-production was pure hell. Editors sweat bullets, meticulously cutting frames, speeding up or slowing down footage so that Travolta's feet, originally dancing to Stevie Wonder, would miraculously match the groove of "Stayin' Alive" or "Night Fever." Number 3. The cruel on-set romance tragedy. On screen, Tony Manero is the embodiment of youth, fiery, reckless, bursting with energy and life. Yet, few knew that the moment the director yelled, "Cut," that cocky smirk vanished, replaced by a 23-year-old man hopelessly watching his world fall apart. Beneath the glittering white suit was a devastating real-life tragedy. A few months before filming, John Travolta starred in the TV movie The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. There, he fell madly in love with actress Diana Hyland, who played his mother in the film. Despite an 18-year age gap, Travolta and Hyland moved in together, swept up in a fierce romance that defied public opinion. Travolta even shared in interviews that he planned to marry her and start a family. But fate delivered a cruel blow just as his career was taking off. While Saturday Night Fever was deep in grueling production in New York, Hyland was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it metastasized at a terrifying rate. For weeks, Travolta faced a horrific double life. By day, he embodied a carefree disco playboy. By night, he collapsed by the payphone, dreading the desperate medical updates from Los Angeles. When Hyland's condition became critical, Travolta begged the director to pause production. He rushed on an emergency flight across the country to be by her side. 2 days later, Diana Hyland took her last breath in his arms. That agonizing grief is enough to break anyone. But the movie couldn't stop. Just days after the funeral, Travolta wiped his tears, returned to gritty Brooklyn, put on the white suit, stepped onto the illuminated dance floor, and smiled brilliantly as if nothing had happened. That transcendent performance wasn't just acting, it was an escape from an unbearable reality. Number 4. The pre-dawn crazy fan. Escape. If you think shooting a Hollywood movie in 1970s New York was a glamorous experience, brace yourself for the truth. Before donning the white suit, John Travolta was already a god among American teenagers thanks to his role as Vinnie Barbarino in the massive hit sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter. When word leaked that this heartthrob was roaming the streets of Brooklyn, the neighborhood turned into a security nightmare. Thousands of screaming teenage girls swarmed the area, camping out in massive crowds, paralyzing traffic, and making standard filming impossible. The deafening shrieks bled into the microphones, ruining all live audio takes. This hysteria threatened to completely derail the production schedule. To survive and save the movie, director John Badham resorted to guerrilla filmmaking. He scrapped the traditional call sheets and woke the cast up at 3 a.m. Under the thick fog and biting pre-dawn chill of New York, the crew sneaked out into the streets, hastily shooting the iconic scenes of Tony Manero proudly strutting down the pavement before the sun came up and the mob could spot them. That legendary opening walk you see, it was actually an exhausted getaway. Number 5. The savior of the legendary white suit. Tony Manero's white suit with the unbuttoned black shirt now sits in an art museum as a supreme relic of pop culture. But a behind-the-scenes secret almost altered history. If the director and lead actor had their way, that suit would have been black. Initially, both John Badham and Travolta vehemently opposed the color white. They argued that a black suit captured the masculine, gritty, tough guy aesthetic of Brooklyn at the time. However, costume designer Patricia von Brandenstein stepped in with a razor-sharp argument and a visionary mindset. She refused to back down, explaining that a disco club is a dark, suffocating space dominated by frantic strobe lights. A dark suit would instantly turn the leading man into a ghost, blending into the background. Furthermore, von Brandenstein insisted white wasn't just visually striking, it was a beautiful metaphor. The pristine white suit represented Tony's burning desire to purify himself from the filthy, impoverished working-class world, transforming into a radiant knight in the sanctuary of the dance floor. That argument floored the director, and the rest is history. Number 6. Absolute terror on the Verrazzano Bridge. The dark, suffocating undertones of Saturday Night Fever peaked during the sequences on the massive Verrazzano Narrows Bridge. When Tony's reckless friends dangle from the gigantic steel cables hundreds of feet above the freezing water, the absolute terror of the supporting character Annette, played by Donna Pescow, gave audiences goosebumps because it felt so real. The reason it felt so real is because she was actually terrified. Director John Badham loved playing psychological games with his actors to extract raw, primal emotions. To get genuine tears and panicked screams, he ruthlessly hid the detailed action script from Pescow. The actress had absolutely no idea her male co-stars were going to pull off crazy, death-defying stunts on that treacherous bridge edge. When the cameras rolled, Annette's sobbing, shrieking, and desperate begging on screen involved zero acting technique. It was the visceral reaction of a deeply panicked woman who genuinely believed her colleagues were about to slip and plunge to their deaths right in front of her. Number 7. The fateful cab ride and the leading lady's audacity. The role of Stephanie, the arrogant, ambitious girl who steals the leading man's heart, was a chronic headache for the production. Hundreds of actresses walked into the audition room and failed because they couldn't capture that specific blend of faux snobbery and deep vulnerability. And then, the universe orchestrated an absurd coincidence. 32-year-old actress Karen Lynn Gorney was stuck in a career rut, desperate for a film role to pull her out of cheap soap operas. One day, she hailed a cab in Manhattan and ended up sharing a ride with a stranger. During their small talk, the man casually revealed he was Kevin McCormick, an executive producer and the nephew of powerhouse producer Robert Stigwood. Hearing Kevin vent about his uncle's desperate search for a leading lady for a new dance flick, Karen seized the opportunity of a lifetime. With pure audacity and hunger, she looked him dead in the eye and yelled, "That's me!" That direct, insanely confident assault in the backseat of a yellow cab scored her an audition. She beat out every other candidate and snagged the role that changed her life. Number 8. The $15,000 dance floor turned million-dollar treasure. The 2001 Odyssey nightclub in the film was a real location in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. But audiences were fooled by a massive optical illusion. That magical glass floor with thousands of flashing lights didn't actually belong to the club. It was a prop. In the 70s, local discos didn't have that kind of wildly expensive tech. The production team had to bite the bullet and shell out $15,000 to custom build the electronic floor specifically for the movie. That pricey decision created one of the most iconic sets in American cinema. Decades after filming wrapped, the club changed its name, declined, and officially went bankrupt in 2005. The legendary dance floor was dismantled and gathered dust in the shadows. But in 2017, its true value was finally realized. The floor was put up at a massive auction. From a $15,000 prop, an anonymous collector didn't blink before dropping $1.2 million in cold, hard cash to take it home. Number 9. The improvised tango hustle. The sequence where Tony and Stephanie practice a hybrid tango hustle routine in an empty dance studio is the romantic heartbeat of the movie. Every step, every locked gaze looks incredibly natural, laced with a clumsy yet passionate yearning. Why did it feel so authentic? The answer will blow your mind. That scene wasn't in the choreography script at all. On the exact day they were scheduled to shoot this pivotal moment, the head choreographer went AWOL without explanation. Facing a canceled shoot and thousands of dollars down the drain, John Travolta and Karen Lynn Gorney were backed into a corner. With no other option, they relied on their own background knowledge, improvising steps and stringing them together right there on the spot. That desperate improvisation sparked chemistry so electric that the director kept the very first take, completely unedited. Number 10. The pants down. Shock and unscripted reactions. We're capping off the first 10 facts with an incident oozing with bad boy rebellion. In one scene, Tony's crew goes to chow down and wreak havoc at a famous White Castle burger joint. Director John Badham wanted the camera to capture the most disgusted, shocked, and contemptuous expressions possible from the staff. But instead of hiring extras, the crew used the actual restaurant employees who were working their shift that day. To trigger genuine shock, the director pulled actor Paul Pape, who played Double J, aside and whispered instructions to do something absolutely insane and totally off script. The result? While the cameras rolled and the boys were yelling, Paul Pape casually dropped his pants, flashing his entire bare ass right in front of the counter staff. Those petrified, wide-eyed faces you see in the movie are not acting. It is the 100% genuine panic of honest citizens getting visually assaulted right in the middle of their work shift. Number 11. The ruthless firing of an Oscar-winning director. Saturday Night Fever carries a dark, gritty, and suffocatingly raw tone. But it was dangerously close to becoming a sanitized, cliché family film. Do you know who was originally hired to direct it? John G. Avildsen, who had just gloriously won the Academy Award for Best Director for the masterpiece Rocky, 1976. Riding the high of a winner, Avildsen walked onto the set and immediately wanted to whitewash the script. He hated the profanity, hated the despair of the Brooklyn working-class youth, and insisted on making Tony Manero a polite, moral good guy. This meddling infuriated powerhouse producer Robert Stigwood. Stigwood understood that the story's greatness lay precisely in its darkness and dead ends. showing absolutely no mercy. Just weeks before shooting, Stigwood fired the Oscar-holding director on the spot and brought in John Badham as a replacement. It was a ruthless, high-stakes gamble, but it saved the very soul of the film. Number 12. The sweaty torture and the threat to walk away. Tony Manero glides across the dance floor as effortlessly as if he has no gravity. But to achieve that elegance, John Travolta endured literal physical torture. There was no CGI or movie magic in the 70s. For 9 grueling months before filming, Travolta locked himself into an insane training regimen, running 2 miles every morning and dancing frantically for 3.5 hours a day. Consequently, he dropped over 20 pounds to squeeze perfectly into that skin-tight suit. The obsession peaked during the shoot of Tony's solo dance scene. Director Badham wanted to shoot close-ups of a stunt double's feet to save time, planning to splice it with Travolta's face later. When Travolta heard this, he snapped. In tears of sheer rage, he flat-out threatened, "You either shoot my whole body from head to toe, or I walk." That stubborn defense of his blood, sweat, and tears gave us one of the greatest unedited dance sequences in cinematic history. Number 13. The brutal studio cut, driven by greed. When it hit theaters in 1977, Saturday Night Fever was stamped with a hard R rating for its heavy profanity, drug use, racial slurs, and a shocking gang rape scene. It was a mirror reflecting the harsh reality of the streets. But when Bee Gees' Fever exploded, bringing millions of eager young teenage fans, Paramount Pictures saw dollar signs. In 1979, they did something unprecedented. They yanked the movie back into the editing room, mercilessly chopped out all the dark scenes, dubbed over the audio to scrub the profanity, and re-released a sanitized, neutered, PG-rated version. The sole purpose was to herd teenagers into theaters to buy tickets. John Travolta publicly expressed his absolute disgust and fury over this move. He called the PG cut an insult to the artistic integrity of the original work. Number 14. The flirtatious debut of a TV icon. Think back to the nightclub scene where a girl walks right up to Tony Manero, gives him a sultry look, puts her hands on her hips, and drops the iconic line, "Are you as good in bed as you are on the dance floor?" That wasn't some nameless extra. That loud-mouthed girl was Fran Drescher, who would later become a massive global TV icon with the mega hit The Nanny. This was her very first cinematic role. With zero on-camera film experience, Drescher simply tapped into the fearless, street-smart nature of a girl born in Queens, New York, and improvised. From that very second, her brazen, undeniable charisma signaled the birth of a superstar. Number 15. The dirt-cheap origins of the power suit. Modern audiences often mistakenly assume that Tony Manero's flawless white suit, the one carefully preserved in an American museum, is an expensive, tailor-made masterpiece from a high-end fashion house. The truth is much harsher and way more street. In the 70s, working-class kids in Brooklyn didn't have money for designer brands, but they had a burning desire to look wealthy and stylish under the club lights. Capturing that exact psychology, costume designer Patricia von Brandenstein rejected every upscale tailor in Hollywood. Instead, she scoured the rundown neighborhoods of Brooklyn and bought the entire outfit straight off the rack of a cheap, no-name menswear store for pennies. Even worse, the suit was 100% polyester, a super cheap synthetic material that doesn't breathe and absolutely does not absorb sweat. Imagine John Travolta having to dance like a maniac under dozens of blistering studio lights, doing take after take, zipped up in a suit that felt like a plastic bag. Every smooth glide on screen was paid for in buckets of sticky sweat, perfectly reflecting the raw, exhausting reality of those at the bottom trying to claw their way up. Number 16. The massive legacy of the double-decker pizza slice. In the very first minutes of the film, director John Badham crafted one of the greatest opening sequences in cinema history. The camera tracks Tony Manero's shoes as he proudly struts down 86th Street in Bensonhurst, swinging a paint can to the infectious beat of "Stayin' Alive." In the midst of this cocky walk, Tony swings by a pizzeria, buys 2 slices, casually folds them directly on top of each other, and devours them while walking. This seemingly trivial everyday scene accidentally turned Lenny's Pizza into a global pilgrimage site. The double fold wasn't in the script. It was just how working-class New Yorkers ate on the go. For over 4 decades following the movie's release, millions of fans worldwide flocked to this street corner, waiting in endless lines just to proudly order, "Give me 2 slices, double-folded, Travolta style." The slice's cultural impact was so immense that when Lenny's Pizza announced it was closing for good in early 2023 due to the owner retiring, the news splashed across the front pages of major U.S. newspapers. It officially closed a glorious chapter of New York pop culture. Number 17. The Battle for the Title. Did you ever wonder why the title Saturday Night Fever is so incredibly catchy? It's explosive, infectious, and carries a sense of desperate yearning. Yet, this name was actually the result of an exhausting argument and a forced last-minute mashup. Throughout pre-production and filming, the original script had a bland, dull, sleep-inducing title, Saturday Night. Executive producer Robert Stigwood utterly despised it. He felt it lacked the punch to drag rebellious American youth into the theaters. At the exact same time, the Bee Gees were in the studio writing the theme song titled Night Fever. With the razor-sharp instinct of a master salesman, Stigwood had a wild idea: smash the 2 phrases together. When Stigwood pitched the new title, director Badham laughed in his face. He argued that adding the word fever sounded like a contagious disease, not an art film. Thankfully, Stigwood held the purse strings, so his word was law. The word fever elevated the movie, turning a boring weekend night into an ideology, a disease of passion that infected the entire globe. Number 18. The warmth of family, right on set. As we mentioned earlier, John Travolta's time on set was shadowed by the dark cloud of death. Watching his girlfriend Diana Hyland succumb to cancer mid-production plunged the 23-year-old actor into deep depression. Recognizing the fragile mental state of their star and the risk of a total breakdown, the director and production crew quietly made a deeply humane decision. They brought Travolta's real-life family to the set to act as his emotional anchor. If you have eagle eyes, you'll spot 2 women who appear briefly but carried life-or-death significance for the leading man. The pizza shop employee behind the counter who smiles and hands Tony his famous 2 slices at the beginning. That's Ann Travolta, John's real-life sister. And the older, grumpy-looking woman waiting in line at the hardware store where Tony works. That is Helen Travolta, his mother. During the darkest, most painful days of his life, seeing the smiles of his mother and sister right on the set was the only psychological therapy keeping Travolta on his feet. Number 19. The extreme psychological obsession with the hair. Tony Manero wasn't just a great dancer. He was a narcissist, obsessively vain to the point of madness, especially when it came to his perfectly gelled, thick head of hair. In an incredibly loud, suffocating family dinner scene, which perfectly captures the generational divide in Italian immigrant families, the father delivers a hard slap to the back of Tony's head for talking back. Instantly, Tony grabs his hair, glares, and screams in desperate rage, "Watch the hair!" This iconic, legendary line did not exist in the original script. It was a 100% genuine, unscripted reaction from John Travolta. In the 70s, the crew had a tight budget and didn't have a dedicated hairstylist on standby for the actors all day. Travolta had to spend hours every morning in front of the mirror, using a comb and cans of hairspray to lock his hair in like concrete. To Tony, that hair wasn't just hair. It was the only crown he owned in a deeply unfair life. Travolta was so deep in character that he instinctively snapped at any co-star, even the man playing his father, who dared to ruin the masterpiece on top of his head. Director Badham saw the brilliance of that moment and decided to keep the raw take. Number 20. The watchful eye of the Godfather, Al Pacino. To wrap up this decoding journey, let's look at a razor-sharp Easter egg planted specifically for cinema analysts. Pay close attention to Tony Manero's cramped, messy bedroom. On those yellowing walls, the director deliberately hung 2 massive posters. One of the boxer Rocky Balboa, played by Sylvester Stallone, and the other of actor Al Pacino in the crime thriller Serpico. These were absolutely not random props meant to fill empty wall space. This was deeply calculated psychology. In the 70s, both Rocky and Al Pacino were ultimate symbols of rebellion, men from the bottom of the social ladder who were kicked down but fought the system to seize glory. For an invisible Italian-American kid working a dead-end job at a paint store like Tony, those posters were his spiritual altar. This obsession reaches its zenith in the scene where Tony stands in front of the mirror in his underwear, getting ready to hit the club. He stares intensely at the Al Pacino poster, points to his own reflection, and whispers a mimic of the famous line, "Al Pacino, Attica, Attica." That moment genuinely gives you chills. It's not just a homage to a cinematic legend. It strips bare the utter patheticness and desperation of a Brooklyn kid. He is desperate to transform into someone bigger, someone stronger, because he is thoroughly sick of his own cheap reality. Saturday Night Fever was never just a fun, upbeat musical about dancing. Under the flashing neon lights, it is a brutal VHS tape recording the agony of youth, the deception of the media, and the flesh and blood price paid to step out of the darkness. Out of these 20 dark behind-the-scenes secrets, which truth gave you the biggest chills? Does the blatant fabrication of the original article ruin the movie's legacy for you, or does it just add another layer of mystique to this masterpiece? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments so we can dissect it together. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so I can keep taking you on journeys to expose the truths behind the greatest cinematic blockbusters. See you in the next video.